everybody, it's Mark Robinson here on a very warm Tuesday in Wear Many Hats Towers. Welcome to another podcast. A really exciting one for you here today, a little bit different. But as usual, please like, follow and share the page on LinkedIn. Help us to grow the community and help us to, bring the world of facilities management to new and diverse people. Today, I am joined by someone incredibly exciting, somebody that we've never had this type of individual on the show before. So I'd like to introduce you all to Aimee Felton, who is the Director of Estates and Conservation and also an accredited architect. How you doing, Aimee? You all right?
I'm well, thank you.
Oh, I did forget to mention that Aimee works for the Charterhouse.
Most important fact.
The most important fact,
yeah.
Yes. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, you walked here today.
I did, yeah. We're lucky. We're just 20 minutes down the road opposite Farringdon.
Yeah.
In between Farringdon and Barbican, so opposite Smithfield.
Yeah,
Big project there for the new London Museum.
Yeah, the Museum of London has just moved there, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We had a guest on the show not that long ago, actually, that was dealing with that transition from the old site to the new site.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting.
It's incredible. It's a weird thing about the Charterhouse. We're a Tudor 9-acre estate.
Yeah.
Grade 1 listed. I sit at my desk and I can see Tudor, I can see Barbican, and I can just see the McAlpine cranes
Really?
over Smithfield. So you get this constant weird juxtaposition of old.
New.
Barbican is still old.
Yeah.
And then the hope of what the London Museum may become.
Yeah.
It's an incredible place.
Yeah,
actually.
they've got some exciting plans for it, haven't they?
Yes.
When does it open? I think it opens. It's still not. It's a wee way off yet, isn't it?
I think it's not quite as far as off as we think it may be, but
Okay.
I can definitely tell you who to speak to if you'd like more details on it.
Yeah,
I'm not the best authority on the London Museum. So.
Oh, that's fine. I like a museum, mate.
Yeah.
So, to be fair, I'll probably end up there as soon as it's open. To be fair. Anyway, listen. Thank you very much for joining us. Look, let's start with. Obviously, you qualified as an architect, and you're now working within the facility sphere. So why don't you talk us through that journey and how you ended up where you ended up?
Yeah, sure. So I followed the normal route to qualify as an architect, but I always knew, or perhaps unusually to start with, most architects have a vocation. They want either as a young child or they have family who are architects, that they are working towards that ambition of being an architect.
Yeah.
Whereas I tripped through school, to go back that far, of being relatively competent at all the core subjects, relatively creative, and could turn my hand to a variety of different things, which sort of led me to architecture rather than necessarily having that internal drive to be an architect.
So it was more of a I can do this, so I'm going to, rather than I really want to do it.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
And I had really good mentors even back kind of in school who saw the opportunity that architecture could bring.
Yeah.
It's really good at kind of problem thinking. You do a lot of public speaking.
Yep.
You have the creative outlet of the blank piece of paper. You're exposed to lots of different things. So it's a good kind of generalist's degree, which is unusual for something that actually is incredibly specific.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I went through all of the architectural training, but specifically knowing that kind of the glossy towers, the UAE, even if you think to kind of some of the modernists' buildings, that I really wanted to work on old buildings. Yeah. And that is really the key differentiator that drove the rest of my architectural career. Right. Because that was unusual. To try and tell professors at the variety of architecture schools I studied at that, no, actually, I really don't want to design a big glass tower. Yeah. Actually, of all these sites we can pick, can I actually have that slightly knackered looking old building over there as my project site? Yeah. And that in itself was quite character building, because I was already going against the grain of wanting to do something different. Right. And, I'm talking along, like 20 plus years ago now. So
that takes a bit of courage as well. To be fair, Aimee,
I think, I hope that kind of the professional understanding has changed, but nevertheless, it was hard work to try and not prove, because I had no one to prove to, but to justify that I knew the direction in which I wanted to go to. So lots of internships at, big practices, testing the water to check the reality, because like everything, university and the real world are so very far apart.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I trotted through the architectural career progression, worked in practice for 10 years, but more and more specific as I went along.
Yeah.
And then in practice, working exclusively for conservation architects.
Right.
And no doubt about it, for some of the best in the country.
Right.
For a long time. And, as you climb up the career ladder, you specialise more and more and more.
Yeah.
And that led me to historic estates.
Right.
Where I was the architect or the employer's agent, project manager. It varied job to job for the client.
Mm.
And I saw that there was so much more to an architectural project before the architect gets involved, like the strategy for the estate. You can't just change one jigsaw puzzle without seeing the rest of the jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah,
and as the architect, you don't always have that visibility.
Yeah.
But how can you deliver a really good, meaningful project and product for the client that's kind of on program and on budget and has a life to it? Not a legacy, but a life that's beyond just the delivery of the project.
Yeah, of course.
If you can't see the whole.
Yeah.
And so by the time you start doing more and more estates, you think, actually, I think I should be over that side of the table. So here I am at the Charterhouse.
So basically, the reason that it happened is because you were working on one side and you were enjoying yourself, but you wanted to be more into the detail. You wanted to be more in depth. You wanted to be involved in the wider planning of the project as opposed to...
I think that's not a bad summary, except I would say I work far more kind of helicopter level.
Right.
But the ability to kind of dive down into the weeds when you need to.
Yeah.
But the ability to actually say, hold on a second, I need to check the landscape.
Yeah.
Of how this sits in the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Which is very difficult to do as an architect because you're delivering weeds.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
The microcosm of that one jigsaw piece.
Yeah.
It's the transition has been relatively good.
Yeah.
It's been a bit of an education.
Yeah. And how long have you been doing the
6 months.
6 months.
6 months at the Charterhouse, yeah.
So you're like brand spanking new.
I am.
Basically.
I am, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Have you noticed anything significantly different about the two career paths? Is there anything that would stand out as, right, that's wildly different to that professional occupation?
They are harmonious as a pair.
Yeah.
I think there are huge benefits that I can take from being an architect into the world of estates.
Completely agree.
That is incredibly helpful. The biggest difference is probably managing money.
Right, okay.
Frankly, on multiple projects.
Yeah.
Running concurrently. Beyond that, I'm still involved in projects day to day, not necessarily with the pen in my hand doing the design, but project managing from a client's perspective.
Yeah.
I still have to talk to all the contractors on site, even though I have head of estates and facilities managers and maintenance guys who work as part of my team.
Yeah, of course.
But checking that, the direction of travel is not so reactive all of the time that we can't have a kind of an estate strategy, which isn't there yet. It's very much in development.
Yeah, of course.
But that engagement with the contractors is very similar to an architect.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's useful.
So did somebody come up to you and say, we'd love you to come and do this role? Or did you actively go out and think, right, I want to do it, I'm going to go try and get that?
No, more of the former.
The former, okay. Yeah. So somebody tried to entice you with a box of chocolates and a nice bottle of wine.
I think it took more than that.
Yeah.
I think it was definitely on my radar to do that.
Yeah.
But
it's quite brave to switch industries as well, especially one that you know and you understand and things like that, and then you go into a completely different career path. I mean,
But I mean, life is long, isn't it?
Well, it depends how you look at it.
I think, you can't be too risk adverse.
Yeah.
You can always go back.
No, that's agreed. Yeah.
And I think, you train as an architect for, 7 years if you're lucky, to get through all of the stages. And settling, I think, is not necessarily, maybe there you can argue both ways probably on that, but I don't know. COVID kind of changed everything.
Yeah, I would agree with that, to be fair.
But actually, I think it's changed the spectre of the world and home and work and...
I think it's changed our value chain, I call it.
Yeah.
Because you would always, your family is a lot more important now. And we all love our families, don't get us wrong. But to a certain extent, we always end up putting work first. because it's one of those things that kind of takes over your life and things like that. Whereas with COVID, I think it realigned our value chain. We were like, nah, I want to work, but it's got to work for my family as well, as opposed to anything else.
I think actually working in the estate sector is probably more flexible.
Yeah.
Than architectural practices.
Yeah.
It's probably far more tolerant to family life.
Right. Okay. But that's really positive about the industry, then. Yeah. That's a really positive facet.
And again, maybe it's a charity sector overlay on estates that we try to be as charitable to our team and our staff as we are to our beneficiaries.
Yeah, of course.
At the Charterhouse. So, it's, you have to like what you do.
Yeah.
And if you have team members who don't like their job, I think it's, it's a bit on you.
Yeah.
As well as them.
I don't disagree with you there, actually. It's about the culture sometimes, isn't it?
Culture
You've got to enjoy going to work. Yeah. You really do.
Which is really difficult not to do at the Charterhouse. It's stunning.
Yeah, honestly. Well, we were chatting before the show started about some of the television series that are filmed there, like Taboo, and there was a couple of others as well, wasn't there?
Is it Mary and George? It's on Sky, which I don't have. And I always say to people when they come in, I'm like, have you seen Mary and George? And they look at me and they say, no. I'm like, no, me neither. It was filmed here. But that's... we're used a lot for filming, which is, again, it really appeals to the architect's brain. Yeah. To look at somewhere. And I mean, only 6 months in, I walk past some buildings that are just blockbuster, grade 1, Tudor, exquisite. And now I'm just like, it's just work, just walk past unless something's fallen off the roof, in which case I do obviously have to stop. Yeah, of course. But to see the mind of a location scout, and say that scene just go perfectly here. Yeah. And, to see what they do in post-production edits, and they remove downpipes, and, that bit of the barbican that sticks up, gone. Yeah. So even though you go back, and I kind of set myself a bit of homework to watch all of the films that have been filmed at the Charterhouse to see if I could be like that. I know exactly where that is. Really? Which is interesting. And we've got loads coming up. Have you? Loads. Yeah, you were saying you're really busy, aren't you? Really busy. To be fair. Exciting. Yeah. Exciting. So that transition once, I'm going to focus a little bit on the transition because I find it really interesting. What's been the most challenging part of that transition for you in terms of moving from one career pathway to another one? I think... The projects you work on as an architect are very defined. Yeah. You have your clients, you have the product. I will keep calling it that because it covers the range of all of the different things you could be offering. Yeah. They are all in their own silos. Right. And nothing is in a silo. Yeah. When you're on the estate side. Because everything has an interconnection. It's got relationships with other things. You change. I almost say that in the perfect world at the Charterhouse, you are in a triangle. Yeah. You have the projects that you want to deliver. You have your stakeholders that you have to manage, and you probably have another internal team. Yeah. Whether that's events, it's filming, is it the museum, is it our residents? So how you're interconnecting at all times with all of these different people. But the reality is that you're almost always in a star shape. Yeah. Because you have so many different interplays between all of the different bits of who we are. Yeah, of course. So everything is a Medusa. Right. That is what is most challenging. Yeah. Because you can't look at anything in isolation. It would be so easy and so clean. Yeah. To be like, I can solve that problem. Yeah. Dead easy. And I think I set myself a bit of a challenge when I started to be like, I want to kind of clear a path of the journey to learning how this place operates. And I want to identify the bear pits without falling into them. Yes. And that's just pure naivety because that is taking essentially a consultant's approach to thinking that things can be siloed. Yeah. And the reality is they just can't be. No. Every single thing has got a knock-on. And it's how you either accept the compromise of the knock-ons, or do you mitigate so that the kind of seismic wave isn't as bad. Yeah. But again, go back to the big difference, like budgets. How you sometimes have to spend money that you don't want to spend, even though it's against your strategy. Yeah. Because, something terrible has gone wrong. Yeah. And it's I'm fortunate. I work 4 days a week, but it always happens on a Thursday. I guess if I work 5 days a week, it would happen on Friday. Yeah. But something's gone wrong. You need to spend money dead quick. to sort the problem that if it only could wait another 3 months, you're spending money on the same thing to do something completely different. But that's just not real life.
No.
And it's especially not real life at the Charterhouse, where we are so many things to so many people.
Yeah, of course.
We have a 24-hour cycle of operation. We have no quiet days.
No.
We have no days where we don't have something going on. But the museum doesn't open to the public on a Monday. So we have a bit of an operational window to do a bit in the museum on a Monday, but we're still a home.
Yeah.
We could still have, someone's wedding if they wanted it on a Monday, or a function or a meeting. And so it's that kind of being able to keep some naivety, because that's progress.
Yeah.
The me being like, I can fix that for you.
Yeah.
And then being like, but it's going to come at the expense of my budget.
Yes.
Or I'm actually going to have to put someone out and be like, I'm terribly sorry, I can't do that for you because I've got to do this.
Yeah. Crazy.
It
sounds interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
It's no dull days.
Yeah. What's the footfall in the museum then? Is it quite significant?
It's not bad for our size, actually, because I couldn't. And I apologise to my development and museum team here that I can't quote you the exact number.
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
But
it's a question we ask in cleaning, that's all.
We have a relatively small collection, and it's a static collection. Lots of it dates back to the founding of the charity, our relationship to the school, because Charterhouse School, which is currently in Godalming, used to be on site with us.
Oh,
we were one and the same. We were a charity for poor men and poor boys, essentially, to slightly mangle the charitable mission. Yeah. But the school got to a point where it got too big, and they relocated out to Godalming.
Right, okay.
So we have some of that archive, and we have the beginning of the archives of our brothers, who are largely notable people in themselves.
Right.
So some of either their life at the Charterhouse, their contribution to the Charterhouse, but it's a small museum.
Yeah.
So actually, we're probably more akin to a kind of historic house museum.
Right. Yeah, I get what you mean.
Lots of the offer is actually coming in, having a quick look around the exhibition, but actually going on a tour, which is people's homes and is not freely accessible if you're just wandering off the street.
So effectively, you're looking after tourists, residents, commercial endeavours, a little bit of retail, really. Is there a cafe?
We used to have one, but it's shutting during the pandemic.
Vending machines?
No, but we do have a shop. Yeah.
So you kind of look after all elements.
Security, cleaning.
Yeah.
It all.
But
I'm busy.
Now that's an interesting switch from an architect.
Yeah,
most people would have gone for something slightly simpler, I think, Aimee.
Yeah. I think that is part of my character, maybe.
Yeah.
Taking off something slightly too big to chew.
That's fine. Say yes and then figure out how to do it. That
is also very, very much my mentality.
Yeah.
Like, give me a problem, don't leave it with me.
Yeah, and I'll sort it.
Let me see what I can do about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it requires a call, but again, that's the humility of not knowing the answer.
Yes.
But also being like, I don't actually know right now, but I don't think it's impossible.
Yeah.
Offers some reassurance.
Yeah.
To the older community in particular, who we have on site, the brothers, our although they are men and women, but I won't get into that. But the beneficiaries of our charity, they are living independently on site. But of course, their phone goes down. It's not strictly anyone's job to fix their iPhone, but it doesn't mean we won't try.
Yeah.
Apps, so sometimes it's silly things that you can do in 2 minutes, be like, hand it over. I'll get it done.
Yeah. So do you have like vulnerable people and things like that sometimes down there? Yeah. Yeah, because that has its challenges as well in terms of how you prepare and look after things for them and so on and so forth. So
we're doing a huge project at the moment, actually, that's probably at the forefront of the industry. There is a huge amount at the moment about, the older population, how there is, studies coming in all the newspapers about the rate in comorbidities. People are living longer. The birth rate is falling rapidly. Medicine is getting better, so people are living longer, but they're living in less good health for longer.
Yeah.
And, without getting too political, that the housing situation doesn't support people. People don't downsize until they absolutely have to. So old people are living in very large houses some of the time, not always, with perhaps no family or need far more support than they could perhaps afford in the private sector.
Yeah.
So we do have a wide range of people who come and become brothers at the Charterhouse. Anyone over the age of 60, you have to meet some means testing criteria and various financial and asset investigations.
Excuse me.
But it's a mixed bag.
Yeah,
but
sounds really interesting.
We have to train, dementia training. We're all DBS checked.
Yeah.
Lots of issues around gifting and looking after the well-being of people and being cognizant of vulnerability and how that can be manipulated
and take advantage of it, so that you can spot when that's taking place and so on and so forth.
Which is a really fine balance. And then, of course, we are not a care home. And this has been the biggest change for me, is the ability to understand the very complex world of care.
Yeah.
So we have, as part of the executive team, we have a director of health and wellbeing who comes from a medical background, and the difference between domiciliary care, independent living, supported living, what the CQC is, what they regulate, it's just
a lot.
It's a completely different world.
Yeah.
And we are still in a grade 1 listed building.
Yeah.
With the lumps, the bumps, the steps, the cobbles.
Yeah.
Doors that don't shut, some that shut too quickly, doors that are really heavy with old people.
Yeah.
And how do
that creates a completely different...
How do you balance that? So we preserve the building.
Yeah.
But maintain the independence of an older community.
Yeah.
With lots of different regulators looking at us at all times.
Really?
So, there is a point where some brothers exceed our ceiling of care.
Yeah.
We simply cannot provide them with what they need. We can't give them the safe environment that they need to either maintain living independently or they need nursing care.
Yeah.
So people don't necessarily stay at the Charterhouse forever. It's very much the aspiration that you can come to the Charterhouse and you can die at the Charterhouse, but it's not always the reality.
So do you have medical teams and things like that on site, or is
no? So we offer no care. We only offer domiciliary care.
Okay.
So that's at home help. Is probably what most people would associate with domiciliary care. So medication, personal care, cleaning, things like that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, my wife works as a support worker, so
so we have
she has a
support
very
workers.
challenging. So I understand completely how challenging that space is.
Yeah.
Very underfunded as well, unfortunately. Which is quite frustrating. Okay, so sort of moving back to FM and things like that, you mentioned earlier in our conversation how mentors have been quite important to you throughout your career. Can you expand a little bit on that and just tell us, what value you got from that process and how that's helped you and, perhaps how that's moved your career forward and so on?
Absolutely. I think the role of mentors is really underplayed, I think, in all careers. I have been very fortunate that either I have worked in places whereby the boss or, a senior team member has had time to actually sit down and explain things or open my eyes to, different avenues and things like that, but also non-sector related people.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
To kind of test thought processes and expectations.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate that I had someone who worked in finance who was always very kind of astute and brought a very different perspective to the architectural consultancy world on, bonuses or commission. And none of these things exist in architecture. But also like job winning, how do you go out and talk to people? I am not the most kind of gregarious extrovert person. So the idea of going to an event and networking, it doesn't quite strike terror. Yeah. But I wouldn't go out of my way saying that's a top 10 favourite activity. But you have to do it.
Yeah.
Actually, and trying to find comrades in the industry and kind of collect them up as you go, but be willing to give them as much as you want from them.
It's like that reciprocal relationship, isn't it?
And I think that's been hugely beneficial. I've been very fortunate that I have quite a few female colleagues
Yeah.
which is getting better. There is still a bit of an issue in kind of women in the construction and built environment.
Yeah.
But kind of gathering some really solid female colleagues who you can call up and say, actually, you know, what do you think about this?
How would you deal with X? How would you
Yeah.
deal with Y? I think women bring a completely different dimension to it. I think it makes it better. It makes it a stronger industry.
Yeah, and especially when I had my children and navigating the world of going back to work and do you go back part-time or do you go back full-time, and how do you suck it up on the childcare, and how do you negotiate that and balance, and how do you still have ambition for yourself when you clearly have a conflict over time and being present in the workplace.
Because there's an element of guilt as well, isn't there?
Oh God, that's huge. I mean, I've got kids in summer camp that they've never been to before. They don't know a soul.
Really?
And I'm like, bye-bye. Have fun. See you at 5. And they're just like, okay, bye. You know? And I'm like, I've done you a lovely packed lunch.
Yeah, stop minding. What's wrong with it?
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't know. I do feel terrible guilt.
Yeah.
But also working facilitates a life for them.
Exactly.
That is not quite without bounds, but they, you know, they are beneficiaries of me working. Yeah. So I think, you know, me being at home or me working, they would have equal. I
completely agree. I don't, you know, I think we sometimes we feel guilty for the wrong reasons, if that makes sense. And we had another lady on the show several weeks ago, and she had her children 10, 12 years ago, and she explained to us how horrendously difficult it was coming back to the workplace after having kids, and how it's very different now to what it was even 10, 12 years ago.
I'm sure. Well, I would hope so.
Yeah, well,
I hope it's an improving picture.
Yeah.
It's not impossible by any means, but you have to be prepared to compromise. But being able to have those people you can call. Yeah. And you know, it was shameless at the very beginning of my career, you know, utilising people my parents knew. Yeah. And just being like, oh, you know, could you introduce me to so and so? Yeah. Just half an hour chat. Yeah. At coffee. And just being like, what do you think about this? Could I do that? What could I do here? Yeah. And never leave. I mean, I've moved job a lot, but never leave on a bad word. Yeah. Because the industry is small. Yes. Architecture is small, but conservation architecture, I mean, is like the mill pond. It's like a microcosm of architecture. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But, you know, it's not that you don't know when you might need those people, but you want to be friends with people. Well, yeah, it's your reputation, isn't it? Yeah. I always say you catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar, if that makes sense. And I do truly believe that. Yeah. And, you know, I like to treat people how you like to be treated. Yeah, you know? I think it's really important because, you know, as I said, you know, moving sector is difficult. But if you know that, you know, push comes to shove, someone might know of a different opportunity or, you know, it kind of gives you that cushion to fall back on. Yeah, I think. But yeah, mentors I think are incredibly important. If you can find them, treasure them. Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're tough to find, but if you find someone that believes in you, absolutely fantastic. It can really help you out. So, you know, what advice would you give to someone who was interested in sort of developing a career within the sector? What would you say to them? Be as generalist as possible for as long as possible. I like that. I think. Yeah. Because until I think actually it's the downfall of why more people don't study architecture at BA level. Yeah. Part 1 is what an architect would call it, because it is a fantastically generalist degree. Right. Yes, it's about buildings, but it's also about urban planning. It's about furniture. It can be about paint colours. It can be about space. Yeah. Presenting to people. And if you have that ability to stand up and sell something, I mean, you're essentially someone who can sell a 3D view. You're selling a photograph without even maybe the photograph behind you. Yeah. I think you can really go far. Oh, really? I also think that there are other, you know, some of the real estate degrees are fantastic. You know, surveyors, wildly underused. I think surveyors are really, really well equipped to do more in the industry than I think they do, or maybe that they're hired for. Right. Beyond, you know, the transactional, typical property stuff. Yeah. But yeah, be as general as possible for as long as possible. Yeah. And then when you find your niche, go for it. Like dive into it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So what about things like technology and, what role do you see for things like artificial intelligence and, the Internet of Things, and how do you see that developing over the next 5 years across the facilities industry, built environment, workplace, and so on?
I hope I'm not quite as negative or scared about it as some may be.
Yeah.
Perhaps because we already rely on it quite a huge amount.
Yeah.
At the Charterhouse, we have there in the care sector, there are, units that go on walls that you pull cords, they call different people depending on what button you've pressed, and kind of cascades of numbers and things. It's essentially all technology.
Yeah.
And I think
the old rope pulls and
a bit like that, but they're not now. They're
like when you wanted you were up in your 25-bedroom mansion and you wanted a sandwich from the kitchen.
No,
so
there's no servant who comes running. No butler.
Oh, right, okay.
No,
I thought you were really looking after your people at the Charterhouse there.
Aspire, but I don't think I've got the budget for that. But no, we have these call points that essentially promote independent living.
Right.
So they can be upscaled and downscaled depending on the person. You can have full monitors. You can have alarms when they get up off their chair. You can have alarms if the person fell out of bed, or the possibility for AI and technology as people age is phenomenal.
Don't disagree.
And it would really take the pressure off the NHS. It would allow people to be more independent for longer. It would give, I guess, peace of mind to their families and friends. Having the oversight, obviously with consent, but the ability to have that constant interconnection and interaction with that person. So I'm all for it, actually. It's no, or it's less. No, maybe it's the same technology as like a BMS.
Yeah.
Temperature goes up, it all moderates. You don't need your engineer to go down, twiddle the knobs and stuff on your boilers and biomass.
So things will happen more seamlessly than,
I hope so.
than they do right now.
I mean, it'd make my life a lot easier if it did. I'd like a few things less going wrong.
No killer toasters or T1000s or anything like that?
No, toasters. Don't get started on toasters. One of them.
You could put sensors in toasters and that now,
Can you?
Yeah, you could put sensor in anything these days. Like turn your toaster on, turn your
confiscated items at the Charterhouse.
Really? Why?
They set the fire alarms off. We have fire loading risk.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right.
Air fryers also confiscated.
I love my air fryer. Honestly, like even a Ninja. No way. Why? Right, just because they burn the food?
No, because of the risk to the building.
Really? Are they bad for fires then?
Yeah, apparently.
Are they?
Yeah, they don't pass their fire risk assessments.
Really?
No EV bikes. No
I know about them
batteries.
because I know the batteries explode, don't they? From time to time.
Yeah. We've got someone very hot on health and safety integrated in the team. So.
Right. Okay.
But toasters are absolutely no go.
Yeah. How do you live without a toaster? Yeah. What do you do? How do they make their crumpets?
No, well, we have as the Charterhouse, the brothers eat communally 3 times a day.
Oh,
so
do they?
They are fed on.
Oh, so they eat together.
Yeah, it's part of the it's very community and communal living.
Yeah,
it's not you just living in isolation on your own. You are joined. You join a community, a living community.
Okay,
and kind of absorbed new family.
Yeah. Okay. So, what would you see as the biggest opportunities or challenges in sort of facilities management, built environment over the next 5 years? Where do you see it going?
For me personally, it's got to be retrofit. How I am modifying my set of Grade 1 listed buildings to try and absorb some of my exposure to the outside world. Yeah. This quarter alone, I think our gas bill went up 200%.
Wow.
Overnight, a gas bill, you'd be like, oh, we're not bad at forecasting our budgets, but that is intolerable. In June, July, and August as well. Oh, sorry. It was for a winter period rather than. Yeah. But even so, it's how can we protect ourselves from that outside variation? Yeah. And that's, making our buildings work as hard and as efficiently as possible. Yeah. How am I going to do that satisfies Islington Borough Council and Historic England? Yeah. And can be done reasonably economically?
Yeah.
to hope.
Because it's a really challenging thing to do with listed properties, isn't it? More so than new buildings in terms of, making them efficient from a heating perspective.
I mean, lots of it is also behavioural.
Yeah.
So, we have network heating on site. Right. That will not always suit everyone. You have people who run hot and people who run cold.
Yes.
But how do you manage the person who runs hot in a room that's heated for them? Who's got the window wide open?
Yeah.
So there is a lot of behavioural kind of low-hanging fruit that we can do to mitigate some of our carbon usage. Yeah. But I think looking more holistically at the estate as the whole, how can we integrate the renewables? How can we really optimise? I mean, I've got 9 acres in central London of land to play with. Right. So how can I use that to work a bit harder than for me? I mean, beautiful courtyard gardens. I also have a Black Plague pit as well.
Do you?
Yeah. And I've got the Elizabeth line.
Yeah. Even better.
So it's, how can I utilise actually some of the disruption that other people have caused no longer in living memory? So the Elizabeth line, when they put all their boreholes in, they've already interfered with the archaeological significance of that ground. Get a ground source heat pump in. But that's again, that's going back to kind of the helicopter view. I can't afford that now. Can I afford it in 5 years? Maybe. But actually, if you stop thinking about it as an isolated project and start thinking about it as the macro, yes, it's going to cost a lot of money. Will it be disruptive? Maybe. But it's going to bring the bills down and therefore the operating cost.
Which makes sense.
I might have just paid for it.
Yeah.
And that's something I constantly have to remind myself is stop thinking about it in isolation.
Yes.
Constantly bring myself back to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm falling into all these bear traps that I thought I was going to so niftily avoid.
Yes.
Like week 1.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen it. I'm going to walk around it.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, we have a week of Aimees in the bottom of every pit. Like, done it again.
Oh God!
In the bottom of this hole that I thought was so easy because I was looking at it as an individual problem.
Yeah,
but it can also, works as in reverse as well. But I think that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah. So that's kind of the bureaucracy, really. Then, like the ability to get things done, the ability to, because you've got to go to many different areas to get authorization for certain things.
And how do I get funding for it?
Yeah.
We are a charity. We don't have endless pots of capital or investment that we can constantly use or rely upon.
Yeah.
So how do I get the development team to approach the right funders?
Yeah.
What do they need to see from these projects?
Yeah.
So it's, working as a whole to also, it's a bit like the solar system. You've all got to be zoning around each other.
Yeah.
To get the jobs done. But
okay, sounds really interesting.
Yeah,
it does say. Sounds like a dance, doesn't it? It sounds like the tango.
It is, but it's probably as complicated.
You get to lead for a little bit, and then someone else gets to lead, and things like that.
So. But that is also fantastic about the Charterhouse. It's so collaborative.
Yes.
No egos.
Yeah.
No competition.
Yeah.
There is no. It's never one person's idea.
Yeah.
It moves from one team to the other team, might go back to them before it goes to someone else.
Yeah.
But it's like we're all pulling in the same direction. And we've got to make this charity last.
Yeah.
We've been there since, I'm going to get the date wrong now. I think it's 1571.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. 1571, 1517, something like that. We have existed for that long. How do we, the current executive level,
continue to
make sure that we can get another 400 years down the road? And that probably is going to have to make us start looking out.
Yeah.
We've been very insular, looking inside the walls because we have a very magnificent wall around us.
Yeah.
So easy to constantly, just like navel gaze, look in, let's sort us out. But actually, And
it's a much different environment. The last 20 years is far different in terms of how the world has changed.
Oh, we weren't even open to the public before 2017.
Are we not?
Completely closed community.
Really?
Yeah. Not a single person crossed the gate.
Before 2017?
Yeah. So
wow.
The institution has seen so much change in the past 10 years.
Right.
In the fact that before that we were just home.
Right.
God, how easy would that have been?
Yeah.
We were just home to an older community.
Yeah, yeah.
And now we're, again, without kind of going over the conversation again, we are all these things.
Yeah.
But that's where our success will take us.
Yeah. Yeah.
is doing all of those things better and better and better until we're this centre of excellence.
So quite an exciting journey to be involved in.
There's lots coming very soon.
Okay. I always ask this question as well. Any regrets in your career? Is there anything that you would have done differently if you had the opportunity?
I probably should have moved sooner.
Oh, really?
I probably should have left architecture sooner.
Right. Bold. That's a bold statement.
Yeah, I think. But like life gets in the way. Would I have left when I still had very young children? Probably not. Yeah. I don't know. Like lots of other things would have to have happened.
Yeah.
That or maybe gardening.
Gardening.
I would have quite liked to have been a gardener.
Yeah. Well, you still can.
You're right. Life is long.
Yeah, life is long. You can do it. I mean, you've got weekends.
Another version of Aimee to come.
Yeah, it doesn't get dark till after 9 o'clock these days. This time, are you? To be fair, so am I, Aimee, to be honest. Okay, so outside of the workspace, what do you like to get up to? What gives you the greatest satisfaction outside of work?
Ferrying my children around. Yeah. I do a lot of that.
Yeah. I do that too, but I don't know if I enjoy it, Aimee.
I don't know. I do. I do. Yeah, it's incredibly fulfilling being a parent. And I think it makes a better me in the workplace.
Right, okay.
Actually, I think I'm a better mum for working.
Yeah.
And I think I'm a better colleague.
For being a mum.
For being a mum.
Yeah, I agree. If there's one thing children teach you, it's patience.
Yeah.
I think.
Mine's been a bit thin this week, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I've got 3 of them, and I'm with you. Yeah, I'm on the same.
But it's but I love being outside. Yeah. Gardening is a massive passion.
Yeah,
kind of landscape, but it's just another texture of building.
It is actually, but it's
just living bricks and stuff.
Living bricks, yeah.
So it's not necessarily that kind of blockbuster.
So in 10 years' time. Yeah. You might be like Mrs. Lawn or something like that. You could have a business doing your own landscaping.
Perhaps.
Maybe you could come up with some way to create just a completely different garden at the Charterhouse.
Oh, I think my head of landscape might be a bit miffed if I suggest. Really? No, he's doing a splendid job. No.
He is.
No, but there's still time. Still for version 3.0.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that brings us to the end of the podcast, Aimee. How did you find it?
Yeah, it was lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us. I think people will really enjoy this one.
Yeah, I hope
such an interesting chat.
Inspires confidence that you can change career.
Yeah, I think it will. Thank you very much, Aimee. As ever, guys, I'm sure Aimee wouldn't mind if you've reached out to her over LinkedIn in the event you had any questions regarding some of the content that's taken place today. Maybe you're thinking about switching career from architecture or surveying or whatever it may be, but you're concerned about doing it. Maybe Aimee can help you. But as ever, guys, that's the end of another episode. Thank you very much. See you later.